Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and in this video, I'm going to be diving into if the two bears that are new to Raid Shadow Legends are worth maxing out and how you should gear them and taking them for a test run, doing all that sort of stuff and having a discussion about them. So yeah, let's get into it. Alrighty, so first of all, let's go ahead and pull up these two bears. They are new epics in the Skinwalkers faction. We've got, they're both defense. We've got the lighter one and the darker one. So we'll start here on the left with Ursine Ice Crusher. Base speed of 93, A1 with a 10% chance of placing a block cooldown skills debuff for 1 turn. Starts pretty low at 10%, but we can get that all the way up to 30%, but it does take 6 books to do so. But if you get that to 30%, it's based on defense, blocks, cooldown skills. That's pretty decent for an A1. Then we've got an A2 that's AoE, 3-turn cooldown, 75% chance we can book up to 100 of placing a 30% decreased crit rate debuff for 2 turns. So basically just going to make the enemy, have less odds of hitting hard and critting on you. So on a 3-turn AoE, not too bad, pretty decent. A passive that decreases the damage of all allies receive from critical hits by 15%. Fill this champion's turn meter by 5% whenever an enemy lands basically a hit that is not a crit. So we've got a little bit of turn meter filling and a little bit of toughness for our team, so a pretty decent passive. And then we've got ally HP in all battles by 25%. So yeah, all in all, a pretty decent base defense and a passive skill, an A1 with some utility based on defense, a 3-turn AoE that helps our team. Yeah, a pretty solid kit. Definitely not godly or anything, but solid. A pretty decent epic. And now let's pull up the other one. So we'll close out of this, and we will go to Ursine Ironhide. Base speed of 94, pretty much the same as the other one. An A1 that attacks one enemy with a 35% chance of increasing the cooldown of one of the target's skills by 1 turn at random. Again, based on defense, and we can book that up to a 50% chance. So again, both champions based on defense, both have an A1 that kind of brings some utility in terms of altering your opponent in some negative way. So I do like the A1s. The A2 is going to be attack one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 75% chance that we can book to 100 of decreasing the turn meter by 5%. Decreases the turn meter by 10% instead if target is under a decreased attack debuff, which is pretty common. So you're going to want to use a decreased attack champion with this in order to really proc those turn meter reductions. Again, 3-turn based on defense. Then we've got an AoE on a 4-turn cooldown with a 75% chance of placing a 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. Remember the previous ability, I said it's very important to bring decreased attack, but we do have it on a 4-turn cooldown here. 4-turn is a little bit unreliable. Usually you're looking for a 3-turn cooldown on this, but at least it's there and kind of synergizing the kit. Then we've got a passive, each hit with a 50% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 7.5%. We can go ahead and book that up to a 100% chance. Also a 50% chance of placing one of the target's skills on cooldown if the target is under a decreased crit rate debuff. So remember, the other bear places the decreased crit rate, so they really synergize with each other. They're both based on defense, and at least they both have kits kind of designed to work in tandem. So I do really like that. So now let's go ahead and pull up my 2 bears and I'll show you them. So all right, let's back out of this here, back out, get to the main screen, champions. And here are my 2 bears. I've got them both maxed out, fully ascended. You can see if I go to the masteries, they are Minotaur grinded and all that. The one thing I have not done is book them yet, but I'll walk you through the booking process and kind of talk about that. So in terms of gear, they are decent candidates for the lifesteal set, because if we're going to use them in Faction Wars, we don't have great healing in the Skinwalkers. There's Rain Beast and Steel Skull can bring a little bit of healing, but if you're going to be using them mainly in Faction Wars and kind of general utility, they're decent candidates for the lifesteal set because every single one of their abilities attacks. So they can constantly regenerate health with every single ability. And they're also based on defense. Lifesteal is very good for defense champions because every hit point that we acquire is technically worth more, because if they have defense, those hit points are tougher to remove. I hope that makes sense. But lifesteal and defense really work in tandem with one another and can make them very tanky with lots of general sustain. So in terms of the gearing, that's why I built them in lifesteal, to use them in Faction Wars, which is mainly where I'm going to use them. And then obviously we want defense. And then any sort of you know, damage we can get besides that. Crit rate, crit damage, speed. Both of them, in terms of speed tuning, are designed to go pretty fast. Like, you don't have to worry about the rotation, really. But you do want to synergize probably the white bear to have a little bit more speed than the black bear. And that is because of the decreased crit rate. And then this bear has the passive that's going to help based on decreased crit rate. So I would recommend having the white one. You can see I got at total stats 169 speed, and then the black one here I've got at 162. So we can see that I have the white one built a little bit faster, and that works out. Not super important to really min-max that and do that, but it will help you in terms of having them synergize a little bit better with each other. And yeah, you're looking for defense, crit rate, accuracy, and speed. So I'll show you my gear on this one. Defense, speed, pretty standard. I'll show you these pieces just in case you like to see them. Boom, boom. And then on the white one, crit rate, defense, speed, and then these ones in case you want to see them. And I guess I didn't show you the jewelry. I'll show you, you obviously want a defense ring for sure, and probably a defense amulet. If you have a really good crit damage one, you can go crit damage or defense, but I would probably lean towards defense and then try to get accuracy and crit damage. Like, this is a perfect example of kind of what you would want, in my opinion, on these two. And then accuracy banner with speed and defense would kind of be ideal. So I didn't show you the jewelry here. Defense, that's good. Defense, accuracy, crit damage, perfect. And then a banner with accuracy, speed, and defense is really ideal. So in terms of the masteries, since I was going to be using them in Faction Wars, I went kind of the standard offense support, and I did Helm Smasher, because once you get up to the higher levels and your enemies have higher defense, ignoring that can help me really lifesteal more. Obviously, Evil Eye is amazing in Faction Wars. Hexer is going to help those debuffs be a little bit more consistent. So if you want to pause or stop and see how I kind of designed their masteries to work, this is how I did mine. As always, when I do videos like this, I mention to make sure and read the masteries. Don't just blindly copy people's masteries. You want to be building the champion to excel at what you are currently using them for. So that is the mastery screen. And I actually went ahead, and so probably the most important dungeon to grind is the dragon. So I built kind of a pretty good mid-level team with no legendaries and kind of squeezed the bears in there. So they're going to pair well with champions that have a good defense aura. Obviously, that's one of the reasons Apothecary is amazing. He's got an insane kit. He's also got a defense aura in dungeons. Then we've got the two bears, and then we want to bring a little bit of damage. I call it an ADC, an attack damage carry champion. Royal Guard is great for that. And then somebody to help, you know, the sustain of our team. We've got the miscreated monster for the stuns, the shield, and all that sort of utility. So let's start it out and kind of see how a team like this featuring the two bears can do Dragon 20. Now, worth noting, I do not have the bears booked at all. So they can probably perform a little bit better than you're even going to see in this video. And I'm not in Platinum Arena, so it's not like the stats of my champions are ballooned way out of, you know, the realm of possibility for most of you players out there. I'm just in Gold 4 of the arena, so my stats should be pretty realistic. Obviously, my gear is pretty endgame, but I didn't put, like, unattainable gear on them. It's not god tier ridiculous gear that you just could never get. So their performance here should be, the results should be pretty typical in terms of something that you could get on a mid-level team here with no legendaries if you were using the two bears, and your team could even do a little bit better if you were spending books on them. And I will go over the booking process for them after this run. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of put together a general team so you can kind of see him in action and kind of see how it works here. So I expect this run to probably be about 3.5 minutes, which isn't bad for a mid-game, free-to-play friendly team that is pretty realistic for people to build in terms of farming Dragon 20. And we can see, you know, that's what makes lifesteal set so good on champions like this. If they're attacking every single turn, like I said, they get constant sustain. So you'll see that every single time the bears get a turn, they attack, which means they have a constant source of sustain. Lifesteal loses its general utility when you have it on champions like Apothecary that spend a lot of their value not attacking, you know, buffing your team or healing or something. That's a champion that's not going to be very good with lifesteal because they're not proccing the effect of the lifesteal. They're not attacking the enemy team. So there we go. We got to the dragon in 2 minutes with this team, featuring the 2 bears. Pretty solid. I was guessing about 3.5 minutes. It should probably hold true somewhere in there. That is a little bit unfortunate that they have the melee A1s like that. The animation speed, it makes it pretty rough because you're constantly running forward and then running back. So, you know, champions like Coldheart that never leave where they're standing, sometimes you can speed tune your runs to be a little bit quicker because you're not taking all that time running forward and coming back. So, they do have the A1s that are constantly doing that, but it is what it is, and you just gotta kind of take it for what it is. Don't think we're gonna make 3 minutes. Royal Guard needs to get a fat takedown in. I think it's next turn. But at least it synergized well. Yeah, there it goes. Then he removed the purple part of the meter. Lots of poisons, but we're able to tank it with this team, and obviously the bears have really good sustain, being champions that scale with defense. And then we'll kind of get a chance to look at the damage numbers that they were able to put up. Obviously, they're not going to compete with the Royal Guard, but we knew that going in. The Royal Guard is our ADC, and we can see the Royal Guard did 1.8, but they did 500-something thousand, not too bad. My Frank probably has a little bit better gear, and Frank is also a god tier epic, so there is really no dispute that he's better than the 2 bears, but I just wanted to show you kind of the numbers you can expect them to put up. And if they did have books, they would probably be up at like the 800,000 range, 750 to 800,000. So books would definitely make them a lot better. And now I will go ahead and walk you through that booking process. All right, so if you are going to book them, so you're gonna want to at least get the cooldown of your AoEs. So you're probably gonna want to get the cooldown here. This will be your most important booking, is to get this A3 cooldown on Ursine. Well, I think they're both called Ursine, so I can't really say that. On Ironhide, you're gonna want to at least get this cooldown here. The next priority is probably getting this cooldown here, and then if you got the books, go ahead, but they're gonna take 4, 8 plus 5 is 13 books, and then this one here is 6, 12 books. So 12 and 13 is 25 books total between the 2 of them. On this one, you're gonna want to get this cooldown right here, this AoE Howling Gale, get that to 3 turns. That would be the most important cooldown to get, and then you could probably stop there. But I don't think they're worth 25 epic books. But are they worth maxing out and really gearing out and Minotaur grinding and ascending? I think for an early to mid game player, they probably are. They're pretty decent defense-based champions that kind of work together, and worst case scenario, at least they will perform really good in the Skinwalkers faction wars for you. So for an end game player, it's probably debatable if they're worth maxing out or not. I did it just so I could test them and kind of take them for a spin and let you guys know if it's worth it based on my own experience. So that's why I did it as an end game player. But I think it's debatable. I'm like 50-50 on if they're worth maxing out. For an early to mid-game player, though, they probably are, as decent defense-based champions that bring some utility and work in tandem with each other and can be your carry in your Skinwalkers faction war. So, yeah, definitely let me know what you think down in the comments about the bears, if you've invested in them, if you've had some success using them, and all of that. I always enjoy hearing your input. So, yeah, hope this kind of sheds some light on seeing what the bears are kind of capable of in a maxed-out scenario with no books, so that you can make an informed decision on if it is something you want to invest in or not. So, yeah, as always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.